Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to the Stories That Inspire Us / the author series. My name is Janice Malillo, your host. Now, obviously today I have on an amazing guest, and let me tell you, this book, and I will show to our viewers in just a moment, this book has won the Literary Titan Book Award, 5 stars. Boom. That is so amazing. I am so excited to welcome on the Stories podcast today, the one, the only, the rebel with a cause, the amazing Lizzy Cangro. Woohoo!
Woo! Thank you so much for having me and that amazing introduction. It's great to be here.
You're so welcome. As I'm showing everybody your book here, you know what, excuse me, what I love about your book, oh my God, so many things, of course, but Reclaim the Rebel, 12 Rebellious Acts to Achieve Unconditional Love for Your Body. But before we get into really chatting about your book, I want to just back it up a little bit because you're, of course, this international nutritionist. Tell me how your start in the wellness arena kind of infiltrated your life.
Yeah, I mean, it really all goes back to when I was a teenager. And I feel like very many people in the wellness space can relate to this, is that I had my own journey to achieving unconditional love for my body. So whilst now I'm a nutritionist, wellness coach, and author who empowers others with the tools to love their body, I really had to go on my own journey first to find those tools. So it all really began when I was 14 years old, and I do tell the story in the book in a bit more detail. I developed a 10-year eating disorder, and during that eating disorder, I had some very, self-abusive behaviors in terms of how I was physically treating my body. But only really after recovery did I, physical recovery, did I realize that I hadn't healed my thoughts and my mindset and the beliefs I held about myself. So it was really kind of a 2-part journey to healing myself physically from an eating disorder, but also then recovering how I treated myself in terms of my own inner mean girl. And I talk about the inner mean girl again in Reclaim the Rebel, and how she really kind of is very pervasive in all aspects of our lives, especially as women. So that's kind of the short the short version, and maybe we'll get into a little bit more in the podcast.
Absolutely. There's so many different things to talk about in this conversation. And what the inner mean girl, how we talk to ourselves, we wouldn't even think of talking to somebody else. So, which I went through the same kind of thing. But, what I learned from that, excuse me, as well, was I treat my car better than I treat myself. Having those inner dialogues where maybe I'm not worthy. Okay, great. I worked on my eating disorder, but here I am. I still have the same thought process going on inside of me. What was it for you? Because I think a lot of people, a lot of women, there are some men here and there, but mostly women, where they get to that point, Lizzy, and they say, shite, I got to do something here.
Yeah.
What was that moment like for you?
Absolutely. And it was I call it the glasses gate moment, because it was very recent. It was during COVID. And I had, as you can tell from my accent, I'm not originally from the US. I moved here 3 years ago, so a year before COVID, and moved in with my now husband, then boyfriend. And we were running in our masks. And I I used to wear glasses to really hide my features and hide my face, because I had this really distorted belief that I wasn't pretty enough, and that kind of all came from the core belief that I wasn't good enough. So we were running along, and the my breath from the breathing into my mask was funneling into my glasses, and I went to go adjust the frames of my glasses, and they broke in my hands. And at that moment, I got really, really angry, because not because my glasses had broken, because I had contact lenses actually at home, and that I was putting off wearing, because again, like, I didn't like the way that I looked, and so I was using these glasses as a safety shield to hide myself. And so that was actually really the reason why I got angry, was because I didn't have my safety shield anymore. And that felt very, very painful. And I think that pain is something that causes us to say enough's enough, whether or not it's a health condition. A lot of my clients come to me after they've received a specific diagnosis, and it feels very, very painful to have something happen to us that we don't want, whether or not it's glasses breaking off in your hand and realizing that you have to confront this inner mean girl, or it's a chronic health condition. What triggered me into actually healing my body and my eating disorder was finding out at the age of 22 I had osteoporosis, and that felt painful, emotionally painful, not physically painful, although that can also cause us to make changes. But I think, unfortunately, until we get this big punch around the face from the universe or from our own bodies with regards to, hey, something has got to give, we don't actually make those changes, because it feels very scary to confront our own inner mean girl, to confront an eating disorder, to confront, some of our distorted beliefs about ourselves. But I think when the fear of not changing becomes greater than the fear of change, that's when we start to grow.
That is so true, because, you mentioned almost like the lens of wearing your glasses, right? That was a protective barrier for you. And for instance, obviously I'm wearing my glasses right now. A lot of times when I have pictures taken, I just immediately take my glasses off. I don't know why I do that. That's kind of weird, I admit it. But when you are looking through the lens of where you are in your journey and where you want to be, where you want to go, what you hope to aspire to be, we do have to come to grips with meeting that inner mean girl and saying, look, I know this is going to be hard, but I'm willing to accept that challenge, because making that change is not easy.
No. And I think there's this balance between stepping outside of our comfort zone and almost kind of trying to do it all at once and do it perfectly. Because what I see so often, like, for example, January is fast approaching, and people make New Year's resolutions in January, right? And it's very, very tempting to go, all right, like, I'm going to change absolutely everything come January 1st. Well, come February 1st, what percentage of people are still doing all of the things that they said they're going to do? And I think that's another way that we kind of subconsciously self-sabotage, is that we try and, when we make this realization of, okay, we want to change something in our life, we try and do it all. And there's no room for being human. There's no room for self-compassion. There's no room for kind of like, challenges to come in. And when that happens, guess what? The inner mean girl comes in and goes, told you that change wasn't safe. Let's go back to the old ways. You can't do it. You can't do it. You can't do it. And so I feel like realizing that this is, whilst change is and stepping outside our comfort zone is important, it's important that we also come at it from a place of self-compassion and do it in a way that isn't going to cause paralysis, cause overload with our nervous system, and go into kind of this place of extreme fear. And I think, what a lot of us just so naturally do is kind of swing from one extreme to the other. And that's not a sexy place to be is in the middle. But I think really the answer to a lot in life is finding balance between making changes, but also honoring the process of changing ourselves and being okay with being in process. Does that make sense?
Oh my gosh, 100% makes so much sense. And I'm just scribbling some notes here really quick. And as you said, making that change, you have to honor that process, because we know it's going to be hard. And, maybe it's as something as simple as you don't even think about January 1st, right? Although I've been there and I'm guilty of that, right? And you say, okay, today I am going to drink an extra 8 ounces of water. Start the process. Maybe do pick a date that you want to work toward, where you're going to, I call it a transition or a lifestyle change, where you're going to say, okay, November 1st, let's not use January 1st for the topic of this conversation, but November 1st, by that time, I am going to be drinking 80 ounces of water, whatever that is for you. And each day, instead of, waking up, when I wake up at 6 a.m., and let's be real, we're all kind of guilty of doing the scroll. And a lot of people love to do that, and I get it. But maybe we look at it a different way and say, okay, I'm still going to get up at 6 a.m. But instead of doing the scroll first, maybe the first thing I'm going to do, get that first glass of water and honor that process.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I really
So I think, so we're honoring the process, but we're making the change. But we also, when we're doing that, we have to acknowledge and celebrate that. And that's what I love about your 12 rebellious acts to achieve. So obviously, let's chat about your book. And of course, I haven't read the whole book, so I'm just going to be very upfront about that. But I love on how, when you wrote this book, you did it with such authenticity, such rawness, but you shared it in such a way that really people can relate. Even, women in my respectable age bracket can look at this and say, damn, I'll have what Lizzy's having.
I love that. That authenticity is one of my highest values. So I really appreciate you saying that. And I think in the age of social media and clever marketing funnels and all of this, authenticity is often lost. And so I just really wanted to produce a resource that women and partners and, dads, everybody could really access and relate to in some way, and have some really simple but powerful tools to take away to achieve real unconditional love for their bodies. Because I see it a lot that, women have gone through these journeys and they're sort of feeling a little bit frustrated or defeated, because they've been on the yo-yo diet train. They've been on the hamster wheel of fad diets. They've, you know, had a lot of self-loathing for years, and they say, I can't even accept my body. How can I even have unconditional love for it? And I say, well, if someone like me has been on this journey and can honestly say, hand on heart, I have unconditional love for my body, I believe everybody can have that. And what unconditional love for your body looks like to you looks different to the next person and the next person. You get to define what that looks like. It doesn't necessarily mean waking up every morning and going, oh my gosh, I absolutely love everything about my body. It looks amazing. It feels great. And I think that's something that I really wanted to get across, is that, you know, these tools you can pick and choose from, and you get to empower yourself with those, and you get to empower yourself with your own definition of what having unconditional love for your body is.
And maybe the reader even adds a little something, a spark in that, or adds a little something more to it. And this really is an easy read as far as being so relatable. And I know that men, of course, could benefit from this book as well. And I just want to do a little sidebar for a moment and welcome all of our listeners on the Wisdom Audio app. I see some familiar names here. So, and I just want to acknowledge that. Thank you so much for being here today. Now, Lizzy, how did you decide I have to write this book? How did the name come to you?
Okay, so in terms of actually deciding that I had to write the book, it was literally just an intuitive nudge. I woke up one morning and I turned to my husband and I said, I think I need to write a book. And he was kind of like, okay, what about? I support you, but this is really random. And it was literally that kind of inner knowing that this was something that I needed to do, and this was part of my service to other women, was to produce this resource that I wish I had when I was going through some of the challenges that I talk about. And then in terms of Reclaim the Rebel, the name, it took a while to really kind of come to me, and it really is a culmination of realizing that having unconditional love for our bodies is not something that we necessarily achieve, it's something that we reclaim. So as babies, you look at a baby and babies are obsessed with their own bodies. They're like, oh my goodness, look at my cool toes and look at my amazing smile, and they just have unconditional love for their bodies. So we're all born with that. It's just a process of through childhood we develop these destructive thoughts and behaviors towards ourselves that causes us to lose unconditional love. So the reclaim and reclaim the rebel part is really about that reclamation of having unconditional love for our bodies. And then who doesn't love the idea of being a rebel? I mean, come on. Like, I think everybody likes the idea of being a little bit rebellious. And the rebellious part is really rebelling against the diet industry, the inner mean girl, the stories that don't serve us, and realigning to what we value and to valuing ourselves. So that's where Reclaim the Rebel came from.
I love that. And, you know, sometimes I think the value of going through that process has so much more meaning and depth. And if you don't mind, I would like to just read a little something on the back of your book, because I think it's so apropos to what we were talking about. The first question that I want to ask, or, you know, what is on the back of your book, is your hardest critic the person staring back at you in the mirror? Yes, I'm raising my hand. Okay. And you go through and really explain it as, you know, an empowering guide, which I absolutely love. But then you also talk about, you'll discover 12 rebellious acts that you called RAs. I love that. To find self-love through nutrition, movement, and mindset. Movement, yes, because when we hear the word exercise, it's like, oh, I got to go to the gym. No, you don't have to go to the gym. Why that diet or exercise program is costing you more money than you think? Oh my gosh, Lizzy, you hit the nail on the head with this book. How to use your love language to communicate self-compassion. And you'll also discover a sustainable, intuitive approach to food and exercise. Okay, there's that word exercise. That's okay. Exercises to help you practice each RA daily. Wow.
Well, I mean, it's, to me, it's really, really important that the book is accessible, because I'm dyslexic, and so I didn't really read as a kid, and that was another thing that I used to beat myself up about, because school really encouraged it, and my friends were, my best friend is an avid reader, and I never really used to enjoy it, and I used to struggle, and only when I was 26 years old did I discover that I was, guess what, you're dyslexic, of course you find it difficult. And so I wanted it to be a condensed guide, and within that condensed guide, it was kind of, all right, I need to address these really important 3 pillars, and that is the movement, the food, and the mindset, because I don't think you can talk about one without the other. And as you say, pick up on the importance of our words. Movement is such a more fluid and flexible, and approachable way of looking at how we use our bodies. Exercise has really negative connotations for some people, and so I like to talk about moving for pleasure and not punishment, because I feel like exercise, you can sometimes sort of go into the realms of punishment, and that's not fun, that's not healthy in terms of our mindset, and it can be really unhealthy in terms of our physical health. So when I got diagnosed with my eating disorder at 14, I was doing a lot of cross-country running. I loved running, but I got told that I had to stop all of that because I was at risk of dying from a heart attack. My pulse was 30 beats per minute. They couldn't take my blood because I was so, I was so lifeless, and my veins were so small that they couldn't even do that. So exercise can really be used for good, but also can be used for not so good. So I think movement is a really liberating word for how we honor our bodies through our movement. Yeah.
That is so true. Lizzy, how do you feel when you hear the word diet?
I'm kind of split, because diet is another very loaded word, right? And as a nutritionist, I like to talk about a healthy, balanced diet. To me, diet is about the overall suite of foods and ways we nourish our bodies. But I think it has been used to sell products and programs that aren't necessarily nourishing to our mind, body, and soul. So when I think of diet, I do get that kind of like split feeling, because that's another word that I would love to reclaim, because it doesn't have to be something that we associate with a pill or some kind of shake or extreme program. But for a lot of us, it does. And so again, I'm very careful when I talk about, a diet, but it doesn't necessarily have to come with that loadedness, right? So yeah, I think the diet industry is that's a whole nother thing. So if you were to say the diet industry, then I get mad. Then I get really, really passionate, and I start getting on my soapbox and sort of say, this is I think it's $66 billion industry, and over 90% of diets fail from the diet industry. And that is because they're not set up for success. If we were successful in reaching our goals through the diets that we get sold, we wouldn't need the diet industry anymore. And then therefore they wouldn't make money off of us. So they're making money from our pain, from our low self-worth, from our body image hang-ups. And to me, that is a completely backwards and inauthentic system. And so the diet industry better watch out, because I'm coming for it. And I know a lot of people are coming through for the diet industry.
And like, if you could just see Lizzy's face when she just said that, like with such vim and vigor. I love it. Now, in your book, with each chapter, it's really, and I would have never known that you were dyslexic. And, thank you for sharing that, because you really organized this book in such a way where you talk about the RA, you talk about the exercise. And toward the back of each chapter, you have, I want to say, like you have this box where, like for this one, where you're chatting about words of affirmation, and almost it's set up in such a way where, okay, you read the chapter and you digest what it's saying, and you give your reader some things that they can do to fulfill the RA, to do exercise, but you also kind of take it a step further. And I love what you said in this paragraph. This is all about creating something that works for you in your life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
When you were setting up this book, because I always love to hear, the behind the scenes of when an author sits down and writes your book. And this is your first book, correct?
It is. Yes. Yes.
Wow. So beautifully done. I will say that 1,000 times more. When you sat down to finally put this in order and you looked at your manuscript, what was the first thing that popped into your mind? Like, did you envision, for instance, the reader holding this book in their hand, or maybe reading it on their Kindle, whatever? What did you imagine in that moment?
Oh my goodness, I'm going to get emotional, because for months I practice a lot of self-hypnosis. So in the morning and at night I do a little self-hypnosis, just as part of my routine. And for months and months and months leading up to the book being published, I had this vision of my book really, well, first of all, my heart opening up and being able to reach millions of people. And I know it sounds really ambitious, but hey, let's be ambitious. Millions of
Absolutely.
people across the world who needed to hear what I shared. And I literally kind of like envisioned my book kind of falling from the sky and into people's laps and people reading it. And, it was a very powerful way of being able to keep going through the process of creating the book and letting it out into the world, because it is a very vulnerable thing. I mean, I share some things in there that even I hadn't spoken to my parents about. And so it was, it was outside my comfort zone to be able to share. But I knew I don't like the word had, but I knew it was part of what I needed to do. And so it was a really powerful way of almost calming my own inner mean girl to say, no, 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 don't do that, don't release it. And actually going, no, this is going to really help other people. And I held that vision for being able to reach the people that it needed to reach, and also just being in peace with not everyone is going to resonate with my message, and being okay with that. So yeah, I did think about it a lot, and I did hold that space for releasing it and then detaching from the outcome.
Mm-hmm. And that's why perhaps you gave yourself a pep talk.
I did give myself a pep talk. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Because I feel like we all at some point need that little pep talk. And I also just want to acknowledge that I talk about in the book the importance of having a cheer squad. And through the process of releasing my book, I definitely did have a cheer squad. I wasn't doing it on my own. And I talked to my friends and my family and clients about the book, and they were there cheering me on, and so that also helped me really hold that vision for it being out in the world and helping others.
And of course, I would love to know what's after the rebellion. Like, are there any other books on the horizon?
So actually, this is kind of like a exclusive reveal, but last week I decided that I am going to write another book. I'm going to write a sister to Reclaim the Rebel. I'm going to write a book called, I think this is a working title, but essentially I want to create a book that really speaks to being able to come from a place of self-empowerment. And I feel like everything that's going on in the world right now is really a last-ditch attempt to take away our power from ourselves. And what I really advocate is being able to be an advocate of ourselves, in terms of our bodies, in terms of what it feels right for our life direction. So I'll give you a couple of examples. In Reclaim the Rebel, I talk about the importance of trusting our gut with our food, listening to our body's hunger signals, and really getting curious about our cravings and all of those things, as opposed to looking for external sources about, telling us about what to eat. Then there's, the society's model for women that you should get married and then you should have kids and then you should have a house. And it's not, it's this background noise that tells us that we should be following a certain direction with our lives, with our food, with our movement. And what I want to do is write a book that really empowers us to trust our own wisdom and our own direction. So I think I'm going to call it Reclaim the Witch, because it is about reclaiming a power within us, and witch has a lot of negative connotations, just like diet, just like exercise. And to me, witch is actually something that's really a really powerful woman, a really powerful word. And I am excited to kind of play around with that and see where it takes me. So,
Wow, I hope you will keep me posted with the update on all of that.
yeah, absolutely.
Lizzy, do you have a moment, a couple more minutes? I just wanted to, of course, thank all of my listeners again on the Wisdom Audio app. And we have time for one person to come up on stage. If you have any questions for Lizzy, if you want to join in on the conversation, but we will only have time for one guest. And as we are waiting for somebody to perhaps come up on stage there, how can our viewers and listeners get in contact with you?
Yeah, so thank you again for having me. It's been amazing to chat. And if anyone wants to continue the conversation, find out a bit more about me, the best place is probably Instagram. My handle is at nutrition by Lizzy, and Lizzy is spelled with a Y. And I share kind of daily tips and just motivation and inspiration for how to confidently step into the body you love on your terms. And so, yeah, that's probably the best place to find me. And then if you're interested in Reclaim the Rebel, that's available on Amazon in paperback and as an ebook. So
Wonderful. And of course, I will make sure that all that information gets in the show notes. Wow, this has been such an amazing podcast. I can't thank you enough for being here today, to take the time to really, dive into your book a little bit and to really share from a place of authenticity again, your personal story. It's a phenomenal read, and I am so excited. I hope that you will definitely consider coming back to the Stories That Inspire Us podcast.
I would love that. Yes, with the next book.
Yes, definitely, for sure. So I just want to show the book again. And like I said, I will make sure that all the contact information, I already have the link for the Amazon book in my pre-prepared notes. So we'll make sure all that gets in there. Everyone, I am so thankful that you were all here today. And thank you again to all my amazing listeners on the Wisdom audio app. I'm going to sign off on Wisdom, and then we'll do our sign off on Facebook Live. And remember, everyone, if you have a story to share, it is that important. Go to my my page here on my profile. You'll see the Truly Your VA website, but of course you can click on that and you can send me some information through there. But signing off for now, thank you as always for being here today. And remember, your story matters. We'll see you again real soon. Okay, everyone. Oh my gosh, what an amazing podcast. I have so many more questions, but we're going to save that for the next time because there's just so much information to cover. 12 Rebellious Acts to Achieve Unconditional Love for Your Body. Go today and purchase that book. You will be so glad that you did. And by the way, I think it would make a great Christmas gift, Hanukkah gift, whatever. Buy it for your mother, your daughter, buy it for your girlfriend. They will love this book. It has truly inspired me. Again, thank you so much, Lizzy. My name is Janice, the host of Stories That Inspire Us / the author series. Today, I was the rebel with the cause, shared with the amazing Lizzy. These are the stories that inspire us. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great day.